Hi and welcome to Knit with Hannah. I'm Hannah. Today we're talking about selling what you knit and whether or not you can use someone else's knitting pattern and then sell the finished item. Hi and welcome to Knit with Hannah. I'm Hannah. I'm here with Knitting Natter to help you learn to knit the easy way. This is a big question and I've seen videos and blog posts and all sorts of things out there telling you from both sides of the story, yeah, go ahead, you can find loopholes in the law, it's fine, no one's going to see you. And then the really tight, don't do it. Really don't do it. And I'm not a lawyer, but I have read the papers on government websites. In the UK, and obviously I know here on YouTube and on my website, I reach people from all over the world. Currently on YouTube, when I last looked, 62 countries were following me in the last year. So that's quite a lot of people in lots of different territories. But let's just look at the UK law because that's where I live. Basically, in the UK, we say that a knitting pattern is taken in the same way as any form of literature. Once it's written, it belongs to somebody. It's written on a piece of paper, it's on a website, it's downloaded as a PDF. That belongs to someone. They've taken time, energy, effort, experience to put all of those different pieces of knitting in order till it makes a knitting pattern. It belongs to somebody. Now, I hear a lot of people out there going, but hats are the same, they use the same number of stitches and they fit the same shape, and your baby blanket that's all knitted in garter stitch, you can't copyright that. No, you can't. But the knitting pattern that is written, you're following using a particular yarn. Designers go out and test different yarns when they're making patterns. They don't just kind of go, oh, that'll do, let's put it together and it'll be fine. Designers have to take test knits, they have to try things out. They probably used a yarn before in other ways and they think, that would really work well in this way, with those stitch patterns, let me try it, yes it works, here's the pattern. It takes time and experience to recognise that kind of thing. So if you go out and you make it easy for yourself by just following someone else's pattern, using the exact yarn, using the exact stitch pattern, then you've actually taken a whole lot of hours out of the game there. You're going to go off and sell it. Yeah. I feel in some ways it's just not courteous. You need to credit the designer. You need to ask the designer if it's okay. And please, let's just be nice. It's really difficult to copyright someone's knitting pattern. You can't go out and put a trademark in every single knitting pattern you make. So just be nice, please. As I've said, it takes a lot of time and experience to go through the whole range of options when you're writing knitting patterns. How many ways are there to decrease and increase? How many stitch patterns are there? How many different needle sizes are there for different yarns? So many. These are tested, these are trialled. All of these different experiences that we have through our knitting go into each knitting pattern. If you think about different parts of life when knitting patterns are concerned, let's put them aside for a minute. Maybe you write a bullet journal, maybe you cook from recipes in a book. But if you were writing a bullet journal yourself, if you're writing a recipe for yourself, what do? If you're a bullet journaler, you don't use the exact carbon copy way of using your bullet journal that every single other bullet journaler in the world uses. There are multiple different options, 50, 200 probably, things you could do in your bullet journal. You watch YouTube channels, you watch planners, you pick things from other parts of your life, like the way that you go through projects at work maybe. Oh, well, that's really important in the way that I just run my life. I'll put that in my bullet journal as well. Do you put the index at the front or at the back? Do you number every page or just one in every 10? Just so many different things that you could do differently in bullet journals. You are unique. Exactly the same with knitting patterns. Same with recipes. When I make a cake, it's completely different to how my mum makes the cake. We're following the same recipe. I use butter, she uses baking margarine. I use spelt flour, she used plain white. It's just so different. It tastes completely different when we finished. That's the same thing with knitting patterns. Yarn and needles, yarn and needles. Same pattern, completely different. And all the way through the knitting pattern might be decreasing and increasing in a different way, might be making a hole in one way or another way. The knitting pattern might be written out in longhand or in shorthand. it can be so many different things in a knitting pattern, so you have to work out what's right for you. So what can you do? A lot of knitting patterns will tell you whether you can or cannot use them for commercial purposes. So from that basis, you can then say, okay, I'll contact the designer and ask them if there's nothing written on it. I'll contact the designer and ask them if I can buy a license to use their patterns. If I want to use 5 of their patterns to start selling from, go and ask them in that respect whether you can buy a license from them. A lot of designers will actually say, don't worry about buying a license, just credit me every time you use it. A lot of designers will say, yeah, I sell a license on my website, you'll have a lifetime use of any of my patterns and you can just buy a pattern and use it for your commercial business. That's the kind of thing that they'll be happy to do. Others will say, no, I'd rather you didn't. But just notice that this is courteous. This is crediting the designer. This is crediting the experience and the effort and all of the different parts of their knitting life put into patterns means that it's easier for you. So in that respect, it's easier for you. We'll credit them for it and even give them a percentage of what you sell, i.e. some kind of license. So if you feel from here on in that you want to maybe just start knitting, you say, I know how to make a baby blanket, I'll just put some stitches on the needle and start knitting. Go for it. And if you feel inspired by another designer or another pattern, then just state that. If you're using similar colourways or you're using a similar stitch pattern, but it's not the same, you haven't used their pattern, then say, I was inspired by so-and-so to make this. We can't reinvent the wheel as knitters. Yarn, needles, stitches, they've been around for so many centuries, it just is. But you can reinvent the way that a pattern is made. You can write a pattern for yourself. And if you actually want to do that, then I now have a pattern writing course which helps you not only write the pattern from your own experience so that it feels like you. Just imagine if you had a series of 8 patterns that you were selling from, they'd be cohesive rather than pulling from 5 different designers to make up your 8 pattern design collection. Then suddenly everything on your stall, everything in your Etsy shop looks like you. You're owning it. The colours that you choose, the yarns that you choose, the stitch patterns that you choose, the way that you knit is all you. It makes sense. Suddenly you've got a brand in front of you. You didn't realise you had a brand before, but there it is. Every single customer out there will not be wondering whether you made different things because it doesn't make any sense. They'll know it's you. So if you want to go and start making your own patterns, then do go and have a look at that. So that's a pattern writing made easy. That's now on my online shop. It's only £37. Here in summer 2020, I want to empower you to just make your brand your own. And yes, you can use someone else's knitting pattern, but you've got to make your shop feel like your shop. That knitting pattern writing course, it does start with showing you how much experience you already have as a knitter, helping you make each pattern, each item that you knit unique. They will look like your knits and it will make total sense when someone looks at it and says, that's Hannah's. That makes sense because that's their pattern. And then also we go through the rest of the course by saying, do you want to sell your patterns? I'm going to help you work out how you can do that and brand them as well. So you've got photographs, help you take photographs too, and I help you create the patterns. I'll show you how to make charts for your knitting patterns, whether you're doing cable knitting or lace knitting or colour knitting. All of that kind of thing is in there as well. You want to make your own patterns? Then do go and have a look at that. I'll leave a link in the description below. Okay, thank you so much for joining me today. Yes, it's very difficult to copyright patterns. Yes, you don't want to go out there and put a trademark or a patent on every single knitting pattern that you make. But let's be courteous, let's be kind, let's credit the designer or go and learn how to make knitting patterns for yourself. I will see you again soon. Bye for now. Thanks so much for joining me. Happy knitting.